Welcome to another CEO Wisdom podcast. That could also be a CFO Wisdom pod because we have both with us today. Actually, could also be a VC Wisdom pod because we have that too. His name is Amar Mistry, and he is CEO at AVC Wise. He's occupied various CFO positions, has been in VC and private equity for quite a while. So this is what we're going to discuss today, that alongside startups and, if we're lucky, mergers and acquisitions. This podcast has been brought to you by podpire.com, which is my podcast agency. If you want to start, scale, be invited to pod, or find sponsors for your podcast. Podcasts are the greatest flywheel ever. They allow you to learn. They allow you to meet cool people. They allow you to pick their brain for free. I'm pretty sure that Amar charges quite a lot of money to get on a call like that. And they allow you to generate leads and clients. So what is better? If you have a solid backend, they can generate tons and tons of money. So podpire.com if you need help with your podcast. Amar, welcome to the pod. Can you tell me a bit more about yourself and a bit more about AVC?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Amar Mistry, and my world is built up in two halves. I started off in corporates, and I was running the corporate treadmill, and then shifted into something more entrepreneurial, working with startups, working with growth businesses, either through private equity or venture capital. But and I've recently stepped up and become a CEO. So I've navigated that journey from accountant to CFO to CEO, and I'm living that life now of what it means to be a CEO as opposed to a CFO. Other than that, I'm just super high energy. I guess I get a bit irritating like that with some people sometimes, but I think there's lots that you can get done in this world if you've just got the right approach and discipline, the right discipline. So, as for AVC Wise, though, we are a provider to the public sector. So we provide pension services into the public sector. So we've been going 4 years. We're on a bit of a rocket ship right now. So revenues keep doubling, quadrupling year to year, and we're building out a new financial well-being product, which is going to be really interesting given all the pressures on the world today of cost of living. So, yeah, neat one to get into.
Tell us a bit more about that financial well-being product. That got me curious.
Yeah, and I thought it might actually. I guess financial well-being is all a journey, in the same way that well-being is, right. You don't decide to meditate for 10 minutes and then you're well. Your soul is not cleansed from one meditation session. It's a process and a journey to go on. So we're trying to adopt the same thing with financial health. So there's some hallmarks that make sense, like management of your estate. So how you hand over to your the rest of your family. There's tax planning, there's pension management, there's savings. But then at the earlier end of that spectrum, I sort of remember myself when I got into my career, and it just seemed completely bizarre that I would be putting money away at the age of 20 for something I might need at the age of 65. So we're trying to educate at the bottom end or the younger age end of the spectrum, and then at the latter end we've got some more hard-nosed tangible products around pensions and tax advice and brokerage services.
Interesting. Tell us about like all your CFO positions at each companies that you work for in the couple of past years, and tell us about the insights you learned from that. So I see Brash Brands here, I see Vita Care, I see Lab Group, Landvolt, Myriad Global. So that is 5 companies right there that you were CFO. So what were the challenges that these businesses faced, and how did you help financially resolve them?
Yeah, that's a great topic of conversation. A lot of the time for me, when I go into a business, it's all about setting a plan, right? Like knowing where you're where your North Star is. And it's a funny dynamic, right? Because you go into a business and you tell them they need to set a budget, and immediately that switches people off because I'm a fast growth business. How could I possibly know what the next 3 months is going to look like, let alone the next 3 years? What are you talking about? But I never budge on this one, because actually, if you don't have that focus of direction, know where you're going over the next 3 years, you won't get there. So that's definitely a big learning. Like, I hear it all the time in sort of my LinkedIn channel from other founders and growth leaders. It's like, actually, don't worry about planning, don't worry about budgeting. Just move, follow your customers, keep building. Don't do that. Build a plan. The other thing is, as well, is it's just around things like KPIs and metrics. Like, businesses, we've got so much data now that people seem to think it's the smart thing to have 100-odd different metrics to manage a business, but it just is too much, right? It's too much stuff to sort of be able to keep a pulse on. So I tend to go into businesses. Have you ever watched the Gordon Ramsay show, where he goes in and fixes bad restaurants? I have a sort of cookie cutter approach now, similar sort of thing, where I sort of go in and I've got a shopping list of things that I go in and get done from a CFO perspective, like checking things on the balance sheet, checking cash position, checking recovery rates, all these sorts of things, looking at business models, unit economics, those sorts of areas, and then mapping that forward into a plan. But for me, it works, right? You go in, I can create a lot of impact in a very short space of time.
Right. Let's hope that you're not like Gordon Ramsay, because that guy, I mean, it's great television, but yeah, it's not how you do things in real life. Obviously, the guy makes great food, though. I ate at his restaurant in Vegas, and oh my God, yeah, that Wellington beef was incredible. Thank you, Gordon. Now, talking about your current business, I'm on the website here of AVC Wise. So, helping make your retirement dreams come true, it says. Do I want to retire is the first question that comes to my mind.
Do you? Well, that's. I guess it's different in different sectors. I think you, Charles, have a different cut. Actually, you're more in that. You've got a different ambition for your life, whereas I think there's a large catchment of people that are on the treadmill of their career. They're just turning the jobs over, picking up the paychecks with the aspiration at some point they'll get an opportunity to stop. But the worst thing about it, though, is that people don't know how to plan for that. Hell, I didn't even know how to plan for that until really joining these guys and working out, actually, okay, this is what it really means. This is the benefit, really, of saving. But yes, I don't know that you ever will retire personally, Charles, as an individual, but I know there's plenty of other people out there that will.
Right. And well, it's just that I'm seeing like macro trends retiring, because I often talk about AGI and UBI and these things that I think are coming at us quite quick, but I'm also seeing people in retirement, and yes, they can invent some kind of purpose, but I feel that work is like a disguise for doing something that fulfills you and others. I feel that work is the system, and nowadays that we don't really live in communities as we used to before, plus the overlap of the capitalist system, I feel that retirement is not really scalable. I think a lot of folks, for example, I see these old folks traveling nowadays, if they have the privilege, right? If their body allows, and just seems that, yeah, they could have done that at like 20, like I did as a digital nomad. I do think that entrepreneurship is the best way to go as well. Like, oh, they don't have the personality. Well, that is created, on command. You just need to get out of that comfort zone, whether it is for time freedom, whether that is if the kids are sick, or if, God forbid, you have like a life-threatening disease. I'm not sure if I agree with the concept of retirement itself. What do you think about that concept?
Yeah, well, there's lots in there to unpack. I mean, I don't personally ever foresee that I'd retire. In the last year, I've been building out my own personal brand, doing a lot of work on LinkedIn as an experiment. But over that year, there's been lots of things that have spun off the back of it, actually, different opportunities. But one of the things that comes up, and much like you were saying in the opening, you get a chance to speak to people and learn from a broad spectrum of people. But in those learnings, what I'm seeing is that it's how you. Let me take this a different way. The UK tax system doesn't benefit somebody if they're working, if they're generating income. If you have wealth, if you have assets, then you have more opportunity to manage your tax position. So actually the system as it is in the UK is engineered so that people that are working will always be working because they can't build wealth. Now, to navigate from being somebody that's on payroll to somebody that's moving into this entrepreneurial space, trying to build assets, invest in companies, take equity, all of these sorts of things, you're building out wealth. And then by doing that, that reduces the pressure day to day of covering your bills, managing your exposures, and all of those sorts of things. So it gives you a much broader view on life. So I'm in a lucky position where I have that. I get to consider all those around me. I was in a really exciting meeting yesterday with somebody that's just really hit on a fantastic business that's going to go through the roof, and I'm lucky enough to sit opposite him and give him some direction and advice and guidance. I would never want to not be able to do that. So just because I hit a point of retirement, I wouldn't want to stop doing that. I'd continue to do that. But I know there's a lot of people that don't get to have those things. A 9 to 5 to them is working all day long, turning a handle, producing an output. They don't get to just step away and do this entrepreneurial thing.
Right. Then for a guy like me, that's like, why would I save money? I mean, if I can build a bot that can multiply that money, just like me investing in my businesses and building bots and growing my capital, maybe I'd be a bit open to it, but it seems that the returns are so slow, like 15% a year.
But you must have friends within your network that prefer stable, prefer safe, that are just picking up a paycheck.
I'm not talking about retirement here. I'm just talking about like investing my money. For example, again, I have quite contrarian thesis. I think people adopt mindsets because it's the herd, everyone think the same. But for example, I see people that invest a good part of their money. Rich people definitely do that into funds, for example, and wait, or even worse, like boring real estate, right? And watch it grow 15% a year. But what if I could invest it in a startup that can grow that money 300% a year? And I think I'm good at that. I already have a bunch of systems for this. Or even better, extend years of my life, quality and quantity of my life, and invest it in my health. I just see, like these wealthy folks invest in, like these 15% or 30% return funds, and they die at like 84, so what's the point of that? Do you agree with the premise that people could invest their money into better vehicles to have a better life?
Yeah, definitely. But I think investors are always managing a portfolio. And my experience is you'll meet wealthy people, and there'll be a whole host of reasons why they're looking to make that investment. Sometimes it's just, look, I really love what you're doing, passionate, let's get in and let's get it done. Sometimes it'll be, look, I'm heading for a big tax bill this year. I need to find a place to put some cash to take to benefits for some tax relief. So they're looking to minimize their tax position. So it's not actually about whether that investment is going to 3x, 4x, 10x. It's actually just about managing a short-term cash position, which is a completely different mindset to somebody that's just built out wealth. Like if you've just come across your first 100K, you're not necessarily sitting there saying, well, how do I reduce my 30K tax bill? And you're happy to wash away 100K to cover 30K. The maths doesn't add up. But when you've got 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, you're always doing that. You're managing your tax position. And then you're also placing your bet. So you might have a view that you want to put a certain catchment into high growth. You want to put a certain catchment into mid-tier. There's always a spread. I think, and that's probably the approach I take. I mean, I did do try and take a balanced view on risk on that end.
Right. And I believe like nowadays one of the best investment can be in bots. You know, bots, they don't have feelings for now, they don't have rights. So they're the equivalent of slaves back in the days, and they will constantly yield profits. You know, they will constantly yield until they gain some rights, until they gain quote unquote emotions. And I think that is the real opportunity right now. If I invest $1 in a bot, it's going to yield probably 300 or $3,000. And nowadays it's like people invest in stocks, you know, and they make a 2x return and they're all impressed. But I feel that automation and AI is really the area that might have you crack capitalism personally, and then it might break the whole system actually, because it's that much powerful. What do you think about that?
I love that, and actually, I do love your views on this from previously when we've been talking about how you can maximize AI. But and actually, there is a thread through what you've just said. As I was just thinking as you were talking, but I mean, I was just talking about people that have wealth and that are managing wealth, and we were talking about people that have a 9-to-5 job and they're running the treadmill every day. It's not just money that's the difference, it's time, actually. So, and what I've always done, my outlook in terms of how I got to where I've got to, I've every opportunity found ways to cut admin. I'm really disciplined in the things I need to get done, but I don't waste time on stuff that's not value add. I'm not doing it to the extent that you are. I'm not building out bots or anything like that, but I absolutely can see the extension into that. And so if you could find a way you could create that sort of space and freedom for a larger group of the population, who knows what that might open up to.
What does a day-to-day in your CEO/CFO life look like nowadays?
Well, definitely not CFO anymore, but no, we're fully
I'm
remote.
pretty sure you still consider yourself a CFO though.
Well, I don't like the stereotypes that go with the CFO. But I've got a skill set of a CFO, but yeah, like, so what does the day look like? So for me, we're fully remote. We're fully remote and we do it well. So every morning we're on every team in the business is meeting up, doing daily catch-up calls. And I think I came into this business thinking, gosh, that's not really going to work. Why would you want to get everyone together for 15 minutes at the start of every day? But it really does. Like, you get a chance to hear people and see people, not necessarily because they're telling you stuff you don't know, but just that interaction, I think, really helps me start my day, and I think really helps to build a team spirit. But other than that, we're in the process right now. I've just joined these guys. They've had a great journey up to this point. And now we're trying to set a North Star. So all that planning piece I said to you earlier on, we're in that cycle now. So we're looking at strategies on all fronts. We're looking at how we open up into new markets, product developments, partnership opportunities, M&A, everything. We're covering the whole spectrum. So at the minute, for me, it's every day is different. There's no one day the same, which I love.
What about your objectives this year? What are you seeking to accomplish?
Yeah, so well, I guess for me, I want to bed into this business. As I said, I'm a high energy person, and when I sort of my brain works, I think, in a different way. I there's lots of things always swirling around, and I do a lot of spider diagrams, and then eventually all the things start to come together. And then as soon as it does, I'm at it. I'm running at it, and I'm like, right, let's just get this done. Now, I'm trying to manage myself in this business, because then nobody needs that. I need to take people along with me on the journey. So I want to finish off forming our plan, and I'm starting to see the picture come together. And I want a team that's excited as I am for the next 3 years. I mean, there's the numerical objectives, but I think they're half of the course. Everybody's got those. And then other than that, I guess I'm a big fan of things around longevity. I'm trying to find ways at the minute to, as I said, trying to do a whole spell, and now I've cutting out loads of admin for my day. So trying to create more space for more opportunities to speak to people. But I'm not quite yet at the point of having a diary looking like yours, I don't think, Charles.
What are your top biohacks nowadays for that longevity of your?
Yeah, well, so I've got a mother-in-law that's a healer and very well. Yeah, so she taught me how to meditate a long time ago. So I do that. I've also spent a long time reading about Wim Hof and his ice challenge. So I do got an ice bucket thing or a plunge pool anyway. So I do that every day, which I honestly think is it's revolutionary, really. And then other than that, I'm very, very active. I do a lot of CrossFit actually in martial arts. So that coupled with the ice bath is a neat offset. But it's all for me. It's all about trying to find sort of space, actually, like the space to think and to let your mind breathe. I used to be 100 miles an hour on everything, giving myself no opportunity to collate and regather. So I'm trying to sort of structure that.
Like myself right now, as we discussed pre-call. I want to ask, like, with AVC, like what's your back end? Do you have employees? Where do you want to grow it this year? And tell me about the fundamentals of the business, how you make cash with it.
Yeah, sure. So how we make cash is we go and see an employer. We help them set up a pension scheme. They make contributions, and when they do those, when the employees make those contributions, they save the employer money. We take a percentage of the savings they're making. So it's almost like an entirely contingent fee. If nobody takes up pensions, then nobody from our end is making any money. The operation, what does it look like inside? It's a pretty slick machine, really. So we do a lot of education. So we'll go and when we bring on a new employer, we'll go around and see all of their employees. So we'll do webinars, and then we'll do individual meetings because we're trying to talk to people about what a pension might mean for them, how much they should save, where they should go. When they've done all of that, what they'll do is they'll then go onto our platform and then feeding all their details. And then we'll then take all that information and then get them set up with their new pension. So it's a pretty slick operation. The guys have done really well building all that up. Where we want to go beyond that, though, is to take that product that we've got right now, which is pension services, and then build into estate planning, build into money management, so education on money management. So we can use the same infrastructure that we've got, we just extend it into money management. There's lots of strands on that, I think.
Nowadays, we're seeing lots of business models. So like percentage of fee on usage, obviously the classic subscription slash MRR. We're seeing the pay per performance model. Like what do you think can work quite well in the tech sector as per how much people should charge their customer?
Oh, into the how models. Yeah, everything seems to converge on the licensing SaaS model at the moment. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to move past having some sort of flat fee structure to some extent. Otherwise, your whole business becomes very volatile. But I've seen some people experimenting with trying to do sort of entirely contingent fees. But that gets a bit tricky. I like what we're doing because we're offering something to a sector that's struggling managing budgets. And we're only taking a fee based on savings that we're making. So I wonder whether you could do something around that. We talked about this, well, not you and I, but when I was formerly in Landvolt, Web3 business, we were talking about different business models there actually, and how you might sort of feed the creative economy and sort of pay to play type arrangements, stuff like that. But I don't know that extends everywhere.
Right, Amar. Well, thank you for coming today. Where can people find out more about you?
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Charles. I'm all over LinkedIn. I love sharing pieces on leadership and my journey as a CFO into being a CEO. That's probably the best place to catch me. I'd happily take DMs, happily set up follow-up calls, because much like you, Charles, I love meeting people and finding out new stories and different ways of doing things.
Love it. And I am Charles. That was another CEO Wisdom Podcast.com today with Amar Mistry.